is a fifth dimension, beyond that which is known to man. It is a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call the Twilight Zone.
Map 1652. Everything in yellow was under Tartarian control. 1652, people. After that, no one knows what happens. Was it a reset? Did the Tartarian Empire get too big? Who knows?
Recently, you have probably heard me talking quite a bit about history, quite a bit about the lost nation of Tartaria, a nation that existed in Europe that nobody seems to know about. It's a nation that's been expunged, and yet it still exists on many maps. Well, it still exists on many old maps anyway. It doesn't exist on too many new maps, but you can still find it on old maps if you search for it, and it does appear to be quite a well-known and well-established nation. Of course, any academic sources that you question about this nation, they will simply tell you it was an area of land, it was never actually a nation, and yet, as I've also pointed out previously, we can find flags of this nation. And if it was just an area and not a nation, then it wouldn't have a flag. So it was in fact a nation and not simply an area of land, and there's every indication that it also spread out to become a worldwide civilization. This is very much suggested by the similar architecture in so many countries around the world, very old architecture, which is all very much the same. And this is what is termed Greco-Roman architecture. But one would ask, why would every country around the world be building their government buildings using the same architecture? You find this everywhere. You find it all through the Americas, you find it through South America, you find it even in Japan and Australia. So why would they be using the same style? That's the question. And even not just the architecture, but the symbolism, the motifs, the designs, even the clothing, the styles of clothing that people wear, these are all very similar all around the world. They may not seem that way when you first look at them on the surface, but when you really analyze things, you find that they all have a common root, which very much suggests that all of these nations, all of these cultures were all connected. And no matter how you look at it, this is very much what is indicated, ladies and gentlemen, and also through the discovery of a worldwide language, which was Magyar, or the root language of Hungarian, which was spoken by the Incas, by the Polynesians, and also by all the Australian Aboriginals, and many cultures all around the world seem to have spoken this language. Polynesians, Melanesians, all of the island cultures seem to have spoken it. In fact, Magyar seems to have been so common around the world that one might question if one were to apply Magyar translations to some of the lost languages that we still can't figure out, such as the Rondo and things like this. Perhaps we could find that there is a way of translating them if we use Magyar. Who knows? It's just a thought. And something else you've heard me talking about a great deal is the evidence suggesting a worldwide mud flood that happened as recently as 150 to 200 years ago. As I've mentioned before, there's a Russian channel run by a man called Philip Druzinin who is covering this quite extensively, and I do recommend you go and look at the research that he's done on this, because it is quite compelling, and you'll find that there is evidence of this mud flood that exists everywhere. I mean, it did happen, folks, and it was a physical flood, but it was not water, and it was an event that covered virtually the entire world. We can find evidence of this flood across Europe, across the Americas, even here in Australia. And evidence of this flood appears as buildings that have a sub-level, a level below ground, and also as many of the buildings that look like they were carved into rock faces, look like they were carved into cliffs. There's a very real possibility that they weren't carved into the cliffs, but simply the cliffs flowed over them, or perhaps the cliffs even became molten around them. But however it happened and however it manifested, suffice to say there is a good deal of evidence to indicate that the mud flood is a very, very genuine event, and it's very likely that it occurred in the mid to late 1840s. And there's a lot of people who've been putting a lot of research into this, and a lot of information is being uncovered about what has truly happened in the past. And our history appears to be very, very different to what the mainstream has taught us, to what we've learned in academic institutions, what we learned in schools. In fact, none of what we are taught in schools of what our history is backed up by physical evidence. All the physical evidence says something quite different. And there may be some people that would debate that. They'd say, well, no, we've got a lot of physical evidence to support the official timeline. But really, when you look at the physical evidence, you can construct any story you want to make it sort of fit with the evidence. But you have to leave a great deal of it out, which is why there's so many great mysteries and anomalous objects and all the names they think up for all the things they can't explain. And ultimately, folks, if there's one artifact that is out of place, then the official version is wrong. And there are literally hundreds of artifacts that are out of place, if the official version is to be believed at all. And again, these are all sort of listed as anomalous objects and great mysteries and all shrouded in secrecy and presented as something that we just don't know how they did it. But really, if you can face the very real possibility that they don't fit because the timeline and the history that we're given is completely wrong, then you begin to see a little bit of the bigger picture. And it is wrong, folks. Our history is wrong. I have no qualms in saying that. It's completely wrong. Most of it has been completely fabricated, and I would suggest that it's been done absolutely deliberately for a very specific reason. The question is, how did they do it? How did they erase history so effectively? And what really happened? Well, what evidence suggests really happened is, as I said, this mud flood. There was a flood that's gone across the entire world. And the mud flood, because it is mud, it's not water, it appears to have come from the land itself. The question is, how did that occur? Was it a natural occurrence, or was it simply done by somebody or something? And the other question is, of course, why can no one remember this? How has it been so effectively expunged from human memory and expunged from our history? But as I've said before, how long would it take to change history and hide history? And effectively it would take 3 generations, but you could actually do it in one. If you were to remove the older people, well, most of the older people anyway, a high percentage of the population, just wipe them out and simply replace them with children. The children wouldn't know what history was, especially if they were children that had just been put in place after some sort of a cataclysm like a mud flood. And these children would believe any history that they were taught.
The year was 1620. It was a normal day for me, sitting on the beach, getting some sun, minding my own business, when lo and behold, along comes this boat. And can you believe it? As big as I am, it bumps into me. Ow!
Who said that? I think it was the Rock. The Rock? Oh, whatever. Let's plant the flag, shall we? I do hereby name this place Plymouth. Very nice. And what about a name for the rock? I do hereby name this rock Plymouth Rock. Is that the only name you know? Sounds great to me. Let's go.
And so the Pilgrims got off the boat and began the hard work of setting up a settlement in the New World. Ouch!
Tartary, Latin Tartaria, or Great Tartary, Latin Tartaria Magna, was a name used from the Middle Ages until the 20th century to designate the great tract of northern and central Asia, stretching from the Caspian Sea and the Ural Mountains to the Pacific Ocean, inhabited mostly by Turkic people after the Mongol invasion. It incorporates the current areas of Pontic Caspian Steppe, Volga Urals, Caucasus, Siberia, Turkestan, Mongolia, and Manchuria. And I will read you one more quote. As the Russian Empire expanded eastward and more of Tartary became known to the Europeans, the term fell into disuse. Basically, that so-called historians are telling us that Tartaria is actually no country, but a name for land of nomad tribes that were known badly by cartographers until the 19th century. But in the 16th century, just few decades after the discovery of America, the same cartographer, they were able to map all of the main rivers of the jungle of South America, as I showed you in the previous part of this video. So, Tartaria was a name for undiscovered areas of the North and Central Asia. On the screen at this moment, we can observe a series of maps made by the cartographer Abraham Ortelius. And I will use again his works, because I already proved in the previous part that his maps are considered genuine and authentic by all of the historians. And as we can see on this particular work from 1592, Tartaria is actually pretty well mapped and known. There's all the rivers, forests, towns. Actually, to me, Finland, it looked much less discovered than Tartaria. I don't think that is so difficult to see that in the 16th century, those lands were pretty well known to the Western cartographer. The Encyclopedia Britannica, which is a very respected encyclopedia, was telling us about this unknown and undiscovered land of nomad tribes already in 1771. Keeping in mind that today historians are assuring us that Tartaria was not a country and has never been a country, so we don't need to study it at school. On the screen, I will show you that the encyclopedia was even mentioning the various types of Tartars. So, Tartary, a vast country in the northern part of Asia, bounded by Siberia on the north and west. This is called Great Tartary. So, also the Encyclopedia Britannica, 245 years ago, was clearly telling us that Tartaria was a vast country. But today historians, they don't know about this small detail. It is just unreal. But let's continue. The Tartars, who lie south of Muscovy and Siberia, are those of Astrakhan, Circassia and Dagestan, situated northwest of the Caspian Sea. The Uzbek Tartars and Mogus, who lie north of Persia and India. The Kalmuk Tartars, who lie between Siberia and the Caspian Sea. And lastly, those of Tibet, who lie northwest of China.
The official history is hiding a major world power which existed as late as the 19th century. Tartary was a country with its own flag, its own government, and its own place on the map. Its territory was so huge, but somehow quietly incorporated into Russia and some other country. This country you can find on the maps predating the second half of the 19th century.
In 1983, the CIA released this document. Let's see what it has to say. Or let us take the matter of history, which along with religion, language, and literature constitute the core of people's cultural heritage. Here again the communists have interfered in a shameless manner. For example, on 9 August 1944, the Central Committee of the Communist Party, sitting in Moscow, issued a directive ordering the party's Tartar Provincial Committee to proceed to a scientific revision of the history of Tartaria, to liquidate serious shortcomings and mistakes of a nationalistic character committed by individual writers and historians in dealing with Tartar history. In other words, Tartar history was to be rewritten. Let us be frank, was to be falsified. In order to eliminate references to great Russian aggressions and to hide the facts of the real course of Tartar-Russian relations, and this was no isolated case. In every Muslim area within the USSR, historians on orders of Communist Party have rewritten history to distort the facts so that the Russians appear always in good light. Needless to say, histories which present the facts truthfully have been withdrawn and destroyed, so that the present and future generations of Muslims are forever denied the chance of learning the true facts of their nation's past.
You know, after watching John Levi, he did a video about these ancient maps. And, knowing and understanding that the earth is flat and motionless, and understand the way how things work, he planted a lot of seeds in my head. It made me wanted to look into this a little bit deeper myself, because I'm researching the history of Tartaria and trying to get a better understanding on what's going on. And there's a lot of clues. We just got to piece them together. And the people who are doing research on this, are making strides into uncovering the truth. And there's stories that about Atlantis. Okay, I know some people think it's a fairy tale or made-up story or something, but after looking at this into a different perspective, and now finding out new information, and that there's stories that the Tartarians, supposedly fled from Atlantis, and when we hear the sense of Atlantis, say this looks like a big cymatic pattern, you got mountains, right, that just formed, right, because this is an intelligent design, right? So either the big gigantic giants made these, right, with their technology, right, or it was something that the Heavenly Father, the creator of all things, made. So you even have these rivers that go, this would be north, and it's literally like a rock or a mountain, like, Shambhala. And this is Asia right here, This would be under the Tartarian Empire. So, and I guess what I'm trying to say is, this could have been Atlantis. I mean, think about it. I'm not saying this is, but I'm not really saying I even think this, but if you're looking at it on a flat earth perspective, all right, this is the North Pole. These are lands that are on ancient maps and are no longer on the maps today. So for some reason, these people fled, They didn't even put anything on here. I don't know, stay out, don't come back. Are these where the controllers are? Who knows? Is that why on a flat Earth, it'd be much easier just to fly from here to there rather than go around. Okay? Right? But no one flies over the North Pole. No one. Unless you are one of these people that are here. So here you have, that's the same area, the North Pole, and it's not there anymore. So, and the story, what is the story about Atlantis? That it went underwater, right? Right? Lost city underwater, right? Yeah, and they have you believe, oh, it's over here, it's over here, Atlantis, oh, it's over here, stories. But maybe this is the biggest secret right here, okay? So this is the Tartarian Empire over here, okay? Tartarian Empire, right? This is the Tartarian Empire, okay? And this is North America right here, you know, and this is where they reign at one point in time. Military-wise, situation-wise, I mean, that would make sense. Okay, let's connect some dots here. All right, because we're going on a flat Earth, right? So, you know, maybe that was a bridge there, a land bridge there, so you can go here. I mean, by train or, I mean, we know they had ancient railroads, so, or by ship, or even by air. I mean, we've been lied to about everything. I mean, there is evidence of ancient airports or something that look like airports. Who knows? I question everything now. I don't doubt everything. You know, we know they have weather-making machines. We know we can make snow. We can make ice. Was this frozen off for a reason? Okay. We know Antarctica is land underneath the ice. Okay. Right? I mean, I've oftentimes thought about where there are more other lands. And the ancients of this place, the first people of this place were so damn advanced, they built a dome over us. Okay? You might win a prison within a prison, right? Right? I mean, who knows? But that's just something to think about. So, this map made in 1892 by cartographer Xander Gleason. Map this place out. It's an official map. Go to USGS and find it. Okay? It's not a flat Earth map, it's just a depiction of the Earth. Okay? No convexity whatsoever to the surface of the Earth. Done. Okay? You go from Florida to New York, you drive across a flat plain. If you go back from New York to Florida, you drive across a flat plain. And so what I'm thinking is that they either hid this land, these lands are still here, okay, or it is underwater. So I guess this guy, Corbin Dallas, I guess he was doing some research on Tartaria. And he says, though I don't think that Tartary was solely Muslim, it was rather a multi-religious and multicultural. One of the reasons I think so is the tremendous disparity between the leaders of Genghis Khan and Batu Khan. Timur, aka Tamerlane, look like the contemporary artist versus the appearance attributed to them today. And they had a vast empire. vast empire. So they had a mixture of Asian. I mean, look at our Indians, okay? So what I'm saying is, if we had a mud flood, right, and these people were there, I mean, people got wiped out, right? So people got to start back from over, right? You got kids, you know what I mean, whatever. Did they introduce the kids? I mean, who knows? But it's interesting that you really don't know how far the Indian culture goes back. And that's just a whole nother topic, but it's interesting. So, and these people were all over. So they had an empire that stretched all the way to North America. So this is how, okay. Let's take a look at what the Tartars look like. Right? During my research, I found there was a lot of Caucasian. It was multicultural. You know, multicultural. That'd be another reason why to hide Tartaria. Was multicultural. It had everybody. It was an empire. It was a country. You know? Here's another Tartar. Another one. Another one. I'm going to put it to you this way. The Chinese did not build the Great Wall of China. There's no way that the Tartarian Empire would have let the Chinese build a massive wall in their backyard. No way, Jose. Knowing what I know now, that would have been impossible for the Chinese to do something like that. The Tartarians were the master of brick making and masters at brick building. So what I'm saying is that I don't think that this Great Wall of China is 1,000 years old. Not at all. And I think it was built in a much more recent time, because everything about our history is a bunch of lies, right? And I really think that all the timelines they're giving us is a bunch of lies. Who was the Tartars? The Tartarian Empire. I mean, we see this type of, right? We see this type of construction and these brick making all over, right? So I'm thinking, right, that Tartarians made this. I mean, I'm not saying that the Chinese wasn't capable of making this, right? But why wouldn't they? I mean, if the Tartarians, wanted to, I just think, I don't know. It just has Tartarian, I mean, this would be Tartarian, and this would be China, right? So, I mean, real simple. This is went across the northern borders, okay? And why would Tartaria have Tartarian or Chinese guards right here? It just doesn't make sense. When Tartaria was much bigger than Chinese Empire. I don't really think that we know about the Chinese Great Wall of China. I mean, of course they'll call it the Great Wall of China. They ain't gonna call it the Great Wall of Tartaria. It has this Tartarian, remnants. I mean, if we look at all the photos and all over the world that they made, in brick, because brick, you can't burn brick. It's fireproof. We're talking about all across the northern border of China. We're talking about a feat in masonry and construction. I mean, it hurts my head thinking about it. Okay. It's all brick, people. All brick and mortar. I mean, we don't build things like this today. So this will last 1,000 years, even though I don't think it's 1,000 years old. The stuff that we build today only lasts a certain amount of time.
Let's now talk just a bit about the Great Wall of China. Historians and the main research engine in internet, they are assuring us that the construction of the Great Wall of China was an ongoing project that lasts for thousands of years. And its purpose, as we can read on the screen, was to protect the Chinese state and empires against the raids and invasion of the various nomadic groups of the Eurasian steppe. And here they give us the various dates of the construction of the wall, starting with the 7th century BC, then the 2nd century BC, and the most recent part, which date from the 13th till the 17th century. But as we can observe on these images, the wall, to me, look very recent. The erosion on the structure does not match the thousands of years of the supposed construction time. In fact, I cannot find the Great Wall of China in any old map predating the end of the 1600s. And more interesting is that in the diaries of the merchant traveler Marco Polo, which life belonged, as we can see on the screen, to the 13th and 14th century, there's no mention of this Chinese wonder, and the idea that he could have missed to notice a structure of that size is disconnected from reality. It's more logical to think that it wasn't there, like all of the maps until the 16th century clearly prove. And also its defensive purpose are very fishy, due to the fact that pass under hills where enemy could easily attack the Chinese army, showering them with arrows, and the entrance to the wall are facing south towards China.
Another Tartarian map. You see right here, it says J562. That's not a 1, okay? They make ones like that. 562. Another map. I really couldn't verify the date on this map. But again, you see the northern border of China. No wall. None whatsoever. Mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. So this have to be before 1600 sometime. Now we got a map in that was made in supposedly 1652. And as we can see the wall, the Great Wall of Tartaria right here. Okay. So here we have the Silk Road. Okay. And these are the main routes of the Silk Road. Yeah, so the Tartarian Empire, they didn't get big and vast and as huge as they got by just, not making money and not capitalizing. And we know that the Great Wall, this is the Tartarian Empire, okay? And the Great Wall was, this is all China, was basically from the top part of India all across the northern borders, all the way to out here. Because this is all Tartarian. So the Silk Road was the main artery, right? So, and it went all the way to Persia, okay, all the way out here to Egypt. Okay, so then the same thing with these people probably doing out here. But that's where the Silk Road went. So you would think that they probably built a wall because they knew people were trying to get in without paying some type of tax. I mean, that's what we do now, right? So it's not a far stretch. Silk Road was an ancient network of trade routes that connected the East and the West. It was central to the cultural interaction between the regions for many centuries. The Silk Road refers to both the terrestrial and the maritime routes connecting East Asia, Southeast Asia, East Africa, West Africa, and Southern Europe. Trade routes. Like Philip Drisden was saying, trade routes. You know, these people were into making money, riches. Okay? Silk Road, commerce. Commerce. The Silk Road derives its name from the lucrative trade in silk carried out along its length, beginning in the Han Dynasty, 206 BC to 220 CE. The Han Dynasty expanded the Central Asian section of the trade routes around 114. Okay, so we know that, now we know, okay, that Tartaria had a significant part of the trade route. Now, did the Chinese build the wall? I mean, that's what so they say, you know? Or did the Tartarians? It was like, okay, you know, we took over enough of this, you know, we're not messing with the Chinese. We're going to build a wall because they on some slick shit. We're going to tax them, right? China wants some slick shit, okay? Right? We're going to tax them, okay? Because that wall went all the way out here. And Japan would be over here. And at one time, they, took over Japan. Even left their architecture behind. That this map, 1492, here, to make it short and sweet, North America used to be Tartarian Empire, part of the Tartarian Empire. Okay? And North America was way much different before in the past. Okay? We've been fed a bunch of lies. Okay? This is a map, 1492. 1492, people. So, we can throw out the Ice Age out the window. We can throw all of that out the window. It's a whole bunch of lies. The whole Christopher Columbus thing coming here, right? Christopher Columbus, right? 1492, right? This is, right, cities, okay? Look at this. Look at this. This means cities, well-developed cities, okay? All over. Well-developed cities. All over, okay? And supposedly Christopher Columbus came over here and discovered America. It's a bunch of lies. It's a bunch of bullshit. The Great Lakes wasn't even here yet. Look at this. Chalaga. Right? I guess this is the old Chicago area. Okay? The Great Lakes, big Great Lakes, are not even on here. Okay? So some cryptographer is not going to miss out those big Great Lakes right here. Okay? This is also in California. Okay? It's basically an island. Okay? This is Nevada. Here's another map later on. of North America under the Tartarian Empire. Okay, the vitamin B hominis, Ocampos for citrate inita in territories Tartarium. Okay? Now you're starting to see, like the first lake. So what happened before that? Was that another reset? What happened? Why, where'd all this water come from? Okay, starting to see it form now, right? California is still basically an island. Okay. And this right here. And you don't really see all the ancient maps because everyone knew this is where the giants was. This was their region over here. So that's why there wasn't, they just left this place alone. I don't know. Maybe they had an agreement. Who knows? But this is where the giants were. So we got 1499. And you see the Americo Vespucci. So this place was way much different. Okay, you got Nevada, coastline Nevada. Look at that. Amazing.
Continue giving you proof that the historians of our days are just copy-pasting foggy information one with another and parroting it to the student in the various universities. On the screen at this moment, you can see the genealogy of the various rulers of Tartaria. So these nomad tribes, they even have a genealogical tree for their emperors. It is incredible. But of course, a no-country land have its own flags, it is obvious. And the flags of Tartaria, they even appear on American Encyclopedia in the late 1800s, as you can see on the Marco Polo, wearing Tartar's outfit, and the emblems in the background are those of Tartaria. What this parasitic society behind the scene want is lowering the human consciousness, and us to think that it is thousands of years that there's wars and conflict, that it is thousands of years that civilization after civilization, humans were fighting and killing each other. And the idea that until few centuries ago there was a unified and peaceful society of the size of Tartaria was very disturbing for their agenda. So what they did, as with all of the rest of our history, was burning and destroy every proof and account of such society.
The Tartars and the Tartarian Empire are on all of the ancient maps, all the way up to the 1800s. You can find this evidence that this is the case. The Tartarian Empire left clues behind that suggest they was an advanced civilization. Advanced in engineering, architecture, technology, and communications. I mean, this is a worldwide cover-up we're talking about. We're talking about a concerted effort by the powers that be hiding one of the biggest empires in the world. More proof that the history we was taught is just a bunch of lies. More proof that they lied about everything. And their explanations doesn't make sense. And I'm not just saying this to be saying this. We're dealing with some psychopaths. Psychopaths that run this world. Philip, does the war in 1812 have anything to do with the Tartarian Empire and mudfloods?
We can see that the War of 1812 was between Britain and American states, which didn't have that much state at that time. We can see 15 states against Britain. So it was not 13, but already 15. So if you can, you have to understand that Britain fought France and United States of America at the same time. So France and United States were allies. Definitely, because just the way it is in the wars of that time. You always have to support somebody to make an easy war, because he is fighting for you, and you rest and gather resources, and then you hit with your ally. You have more efficient victories and stuff like that. And also we have this war in between Russia and France. So we also see that Britain is fighting France, and so France was actually with United States. France, USA, Britain, and Russia. So 4 countries. Britain plus Russia against France plus USA. Can you imagine this? Can you imagine this type of war? France plus USA against Britain plus Russia. And that's not probably the whole list, because France is not one country. France is whole Europe. They had Romanian, they had Polacks or Prussian. You had Russian and Prussian. So Prussian and Prussia was a part of Germany, as they say. So this war is definitely messed up, because the setup of allies is unimaginable. We can't imagine this in modern time, that USA is gonna fight with the Europe against Britain. It's impossible. So the only way it could have been set up, that because we see those kingdoms of Florida and the kingdom of New England here. So if this was the kingdom of Florida plus kingdom of New England against Britain, it would be okay, because those kingdoms are not well known. Not everybody understands what it is, but actually it was a kingdom here and here, because I found those king pictures and I showed it to you. So, and what I seen as the map of Tartaria, it ended right here. So maybe just half of United States was a Tartarian land, and all this Canada land and Alaska was the land of Tartaria. Also, Tartaria had colonies here in Peru, because we saw those pictures too, we saw those maps. So it was a huge country, and then it was split up on Holy Roman Empire and Greater Tartary, and the rest were just cut, and then we see the final map, which is small Tartary. Here is Russia, Prussia and stuff like that, and Russia conquered the whole Tartary. And it could be conquered because I've showed you all those pictures of highly populated areas in the video about Great Lucamoria tree. This was a highly populated area here. A city after city after city after city, whole huge shoreline of cities here, and all of them were located close to each other. And look at it right now. This is impossible. It was a carpet bombing, and we can see that all around this place, whole northern shoreline of Russia was some type of carpet bombed. And maybe even not only carpet bombed, maybe they had some huge impacts here. And after that, probably maybe some blasts were made close to the shoreline, because when you hit the enemy, you want to make sure it cannot do anything to protect himself. So you might as well do a strike close to the shoreline, so huge wave of tsunamis can just flush all this stuff away. So that's how we can explain all these frozen animals and stuff like that who froze just momentarily, because some of them are found with even the food in their stomachs, and dogs can eat those animals if they got found. And I've showed it in the video about Great Mammoth Flood, the Mammoth business, because
Wow.
this is how it looks right now. Huge frozen pot of mud and bones of mammoths. Sometimes mammoths are still good for eating. Sometimes they feed their dogs, sometimes even eat by themselves. So might as well watch this video if you don't understand how, in what actual situation we were on. Here we have the map of this actual situation. This is the tunnels that they have in those mud and ice. So this wave of mud was taken by the water tsunamis that were made from the shoreline of Arctic coast of Russia. So if you have an impact maybe close to the shoreline, you have a wave with the height of maybe 20 meters and stuff like that. So after it passes maybe 1,000 kilometers from the shoreline, it slows down and it pushes all this mud that it gathered, and it can actually cover all these areas. That's how we can explain the waves of mud that reached even Moscow, St. Petersburg, and all those cities of Russia here. That's the way they did it in Russia. Maybe the same thing was done in USA. We don't know, because we don't have right now the maps of Canada, but we saw maps that show the Hudson Bay was different shape. It was different shape, and now look at it. It's more bigger than it was on the first maps of 17th and 16th centuries. We have the maps that show that Caspian Sea was this small, and look at it right now. We can see that some type of flow was coming from here, and this flow right now seen as Great Desert of Gobi. So this was actually some rains from here, and wave maybe passed through Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. That's why we can see only deserts right now here. Here we see this frozen mud, and here we see deserts. So the wave could have passed all the way through Afghanistan here and to China this way, through those mountains. So this was the possible reason, because this is the only way how can we explain buried cities here, everywhere, all those cities, iron sand. This is the only way we can explain bunch of sand here, here and here, and all this mud here. Because if they bombed, they could have bombed first the huge country before it was Holy Roman Empire. It could have been the same as Tartary. We don't know the name of that country, but we can remember the name of Atlantis. At least that's the name of a trade union that they had, because cities of Atlantis are still somehow, somewhat but they survived. We can see it in St. Petersburg. All those artifacts are still alive. We can see it in United States, and if you haven't watched those artifacts, look at this video called United Style of Atlantis.
Tomsk, Siberia, Russia, under mud. It's photos from the 1800s. Mud everywhere. Look at these boards they're walking on. Boards. Because it's all under mud. It's mud flood buildings. Look at the free energy devices on all these buildings. See, just a positive sign for the ether. It doesn't mean Christianity. It just means a positive sign to grab the ether from the sky. Look at this. Palace in Siberia. And this is the middle part, folks. This is not even the north part. The whole northern part is under mud as well. Free energy devices. These people was on a whole different level. Don't let the clothes and the outfits fool you. These people were smart, folks. And these are classic mud photos. See that? What's that up there? What the hell is that? It looks amazing. And you can just tell it's empty. The whole city's abandoned. And this is Tartaria. This is Tartaria, folks. And as you see, this is when the Russians occupied. You know, they came over here to take over free energy devices. Look at the boards so people could walk in the mud. You know, this is a real event, folks. mud all over. Thanks to Martin from Flat Earth British for providing these photos. A mud flood. All of these buildings, they were already here. Buildings already here. Could you imagine, how much, if you was the first ones to come here, how much money, how much gold of other people's belongings. They just acquired them. Sort of like the California gold rush. There's palaces all over the world. Palaces from the Tartarian Empire. These are palaces in Tartaria. Yeah, this is a big deal, folks. So, do your research, look into this, spread the word. Thank you guys for taking the time out to watch. Have a nice day and God bless.